China has deployed thousands or hundreds of vessels in the West Philippine Sea, which is within our exclusive economic zone. And as ruled by the Arbitral Panel, there is no overlapping of exclusive economic zone between China and the Philippines. Therefore, we own exclusively this part of the water. And if you want to know more about this, so stay tuned and watch the entire video.
Now, what about the baseline flow? Kasi dapat may baseline tayo at sa ilalim ng UNCLOS Convention, we have to draw our own baseline. So in 1961, June 17 to be exact, the Philippine Congress enacted a law, Republic Act 3046. Okay? Based on Article 3 of the Treaty of Paris. Opo, binenta tayo ng mga Kastila sa mga Amerikano sa halagang 20 million US dollars. Okay? Pinayaran ng mga Amerikano mga Kastila, 20 million US dollars, inyo na ang Pilipinas. Ang problema, hindi pa pala napasama yung Batanes at saka itong mga isla dito sa Babuyan Islands at saka yung Guam, Marianas at Saipan. So nagbayad uli ang mga Amerikano sa mga Espanyol ng 100,000 US dollars to acquire these territories. At nung tayo ay pinalaya ng mga Amerikano noong 1946, hindi na itinurn over sa atin ng Saipan, Guam at Marianas. So they are now US territories. Diba? Ayan. So kasi nung panahon ng Kastila, sa mga Kastila yan eh. Kasama ng Philippine Islands yan. Now, meron pa pala mga isla dito sa Cebuto Group of Islands, diyan sa bandang baba ng Pilipinas, sa may Tawi-Tawi, yung Turtle Islands, yung Mangsi Group of Islands, and they were under the British jurisdiction. So the United States and Great Britain entered into a treaty to acquire these islands at hindi ni-reveal kung magkano yung bayaran. So nangyari dyan, that was the basis of our old baseline law. So take note of the result. You have a protruding line kasi para mapasama ang Scarborough shoal. And then on the southern portion, near Palawan, para mapasama yung kabuuan ng Kalayaan Group of Islands or Spratlys. Okay. So ngayon, there were supposedly typographical errors. No? There were typographical errors in that law. That's why Congress made an amendment on September 18, 1968. O, eksakto ngayong araw. September 18, 1968. Diba? That was 52 years ago. Now, inamyandahan yung 3046. It is now Republic Act 5446, but to the same extent. Under the Third UNCLOS Convention, we were required to submit our final baseline not later than August of 2009. So our Congress, no? Ating mga senatong at mga congressmen, sa Bisaya, sa Tagalog, mga kinatawan. Sa Bisaya, mga kinawatan ba? Okay. Bisaya. Inamyendahan yung Republic Act 3046 at Republic Act 5446. It is known as Republic Act 9522. So ano ang nakalagay sa 9522? Yung baselines ng Pilipinas ay in-exclude, hindi na sinaklaw o hindi na in-include ang Kalayaan Group of Islands under Presidential Decree 1596. May kukwento ko sa inyo yan. Together with Bajo de Masinloc o yung Scarborough shoal. Okay? So hindi na isinama. Kaya kung makikita ninyo ang comparison, mamaya, anong ginawa nila doon sa mga islang ito? They were treated as regime of islands. Under Article 121 of the UNCLOS Convention, a regime of island is an island that is naturally formed area of land surrounded by water, which is above water at high tide. O sige, hindi kasama dito yung mga nakalubog pagka low tide. Kaya tama naman yung si Charlene Gonzalez ba yun? Ang tanong sa kanya, how many islands are there in the Philippines? Sabi niya, high tide or low tide? Tama naman. Diba? So, pero ngayon ang tanong, how many islands are there in the Philippines? Ang sagot daw, before or after Duterte? Okay, I do not know. Now, number 2, except as provided for in paragraph 3, the territorial sea, the contiguous zone, the exclusive economic zone, and the continental shelf of an island are determined in accordance with the provisions of the convention. So yun na yun, yung UNCLOS. At para madeklara kang regime of island, these are rocks that cannot sustain human habitation. In other words, walang mabubuhay dyan. Kasi bato yan eh. Ha? No economic life. And they have no exclusive economic zone or continental shelf. Ngayon, ang tanong, yung bang Spratlys o yung Kalayaan, as we call it, at saka yung Scarborough, are they qualified to become regime of islands? The answer is doubtful. No. Bakit? Kasi merong human habitation dyan sa Spratlys. May Kalayaan tayong municipality. And then sa Scarborough, meron diyang economic activity. Alam nyo, yung Scarborough shoal na yan, Panatag shoal or whatever, hindi makalapit yan ng mga Chinese when the Americans were still in Subic. Why? Threat yun sa mga Amerikano. So kaya naproteksyonan yan for the longest time. Pero nung makita ng mga Chinese na wala na mga Amerikano sa Subic, that's the time they encroach on our exclusive economic zone at pinasok nila itong ating Scarborough shoal. At ayaw na nilang umalis. Okay. So, compare and contrast our baselines under the old baselines law as amended, Republic Act 5446, and the new baselines law and the Republic Act 9522. Okay? So ito yung inilabas na mapa ng NAMRIA, yung National Mapping Resources, etc. Yan ang official body na nagbibigay sa atin ng ating official map. So yung kulay yellow that you can see on your maps in your screen, that is our baseline. Okay? Atin yan. And then yung white, that is the extent of our territorial sea. O, nasa labas ang Scarborough shoal at ang kabuuan ng Spratlys. Yung kulay green, that is our contiguous zone. Contiguous zone. Labas pa rin ang Scarborough shoal, labas ang Spratlys. So nasaan ang habol natin? Yung dotted lines that you can see, that is our exclusive economic zone. So pasok ang Scarborough shoal, pasok ang major islands of the Spratlys group. Okay? Now, ang tanong, dahil siya ay naroroon lang sa exclusive economic zone, do we enjoy exclusivity? Okay. The answer is yes, if there are no other countries with overlapping exclusive economic zone with the Philippines. Exclusive sa atin yan. So, next question is, does China have an overlapping exclusive economic zone with the Philippines to legally claim joint exploration with the Philippines over the exclusive economic zone? The answer is a resounding no. No and no. Why? Ang layo ng China. Hindi umabot dyan yung kanyang exclusive economic zone. So ano ang basis ng joint exploration? Kundi yung ating pag-accommodate sa kanila. For whatever reason, I do not know. Magkano ang nangyari? Ay, magkano? Ano ang nangyari? Diba? Skip of the tab. Pasensya na. Okay. So, that's why there were freedom-loving people who filed a petition before the highest court of the land known as Magallona versus Ermita. Ermita was the executive secretary at the time of Gloria Arroyo. On July 16, 2011, the Supreme Court rendered a judgment saying that the baselines cannot be drawn from the boundaries or other portions of the rectangular area delineated in the Treaty of Paris, but from the outermost islands and drying reach of the archipelago. So, ano ibig sabihin nito? Doon kasi sa Treaty of Paris, ang sinukat nating baseline ay rectangular. Makikita ninyo dyan sa illustration, ano? Oh. Rectangular siya para maisama lahat ng mga isla na kiniklaim natin. Yan ang ating baseline. Kasi, remember, baseline law ang ginawa ng Kongreso. At kahit na baseline law yan, hindi pa rin ito lumalabag doon sa exclusive economic zone natin. We still own the exclusive economic zone under the UNCLOS Convention. Okay? So kaya, ang gagawin natin, we follow the shape of the archipelago. And our archipelago is triangular rather than rectangular. Okay? That's why ang sabi ng Korte Suprema dito, the principal sponsor of Republic Act 9522 in the Senate. Kilala, hindi ako nagsabi niya ng Supreme Court. Ha? Miriam Defensor Santiago took pains to emphasize the foregoing during the Senate deliberations. Ano daw ang paliwanag ni Aling Miriam? What we call the Kalayaan Island Group, or what the rest of the world calls Spratlys and the Scarborough shoal, are outside. So tuwan-tuwa ang mga Chinese. Bakit? Outside na pala yan sa inyong archipelagic baseline. Because if we put them inside our baselines, we might be accused of violating the provision of international law which says that the drawing of the baseline shall not depart to any appreciable extent from the general configuration of the archipelago. So sa loob ng ating baseline, dapat magkalapit ang mga island. Dahil malayo ang Scarborough shoal, hindi natin masabing malapit sila sa atin, although we are still allowed the international law to claim them as our own. So ano ibig sabihin dito ni Aling Miriam? Hindi na siya part ng baseline natin, pero atin pa rin siya kasi pasok siya sa exclusive economic zone and wala namang overlapping ang exclusive economic zone ng Pilipinas at ng China, so China cannot claim the Scarborough shoal and other islands of the Spratlys. Alam nyo, ang ginagawa ng China is bullying other countries claiming territories in South China Sea. Nandun, di pa rin sila nakamove on sa barbarian law nila that in international law, might is right. That was in the Middle Ages. That if you are mighty, you have the right and you can impose that right upon the weaklings. Diba? That was a barbarian rule. I thought we are now in modern civilization. I thought China is part of the UN. And I thought China was part of the UNCLOS. At nangako siya. Diba? To abide by the treaty obligations. Chinese ito eh. Diba? Hindi ko nilalat ang mga Chinese dahil marami nang mababait, pero itong China mismo, yan ang problema natin. Okay? So, what are the modes of acquiring territory? That is res nullius. Una, discovery and occupation. Cession, ba, yung binibenta. Accretion, prescription. Conquest and subjugation, wala na yan. Kasi nasa modernong sibilisasyon na tayo. Wala na tayo dun sa mga barbaric era of the world history. Okay. So, discovery and occupation, remember that territory is res nullius, it does not belong to anyone. So, pag na-discover mo, you occupy it, sa'yo na yan. Then, possession and administration. So, pag nakakita ka ng res nullius na teritoryo, you possess it and administer it. And the symbolic act of raising the national flag in the territory would tell the whole world that this is our territory. So both possession and administration must concur in order for the discoverer. Kaya nga, ang unang ginagawa nung mga nakaraang panahon, si Fernando Magallanes, although known as Ferdinand Magellan, di ba? Nandiyan yan. At pagka nagpupunta ako dyan sa inyo sa Cebu, dumadaan talaga ako dyan kay Magellan. Hindi kay Magellan, kay Lapu-Lapu. Dahil siyang kauna-unahang Pilipino na ayaw pasakop sa mga foreigners, di ba? Ayan. Okay. So, anong ginawa ni Magellan nung dumating dito? Naglagay siya ng kanilang simbolo. At dahil akala niya ang mga Pilipino ay mga pagan, so naglagay sila ng symbol of Christianity. Di ba? Planting of the cross. Di ba? So, meaning, we possess these lands in the name of Christ. Dahil sila ay mga Christians. At ang mga Filipinos noon ay hindi. Okay? The absence of one will not give rise to acquisition of the territory. So, dapat nandiyan yung possession and effective administration. Ayan. So, puntahan natin yung Kalayaan Island, dahil ito ang mainit na issue natin ngayon. So, Kalayaan Island is composed of one barangay. Ito po ay Barangay Pag-asa. Okay? So, ano ba ang naririyan sa Barangay Pag-asa na yan? Dali lang po, ha? Okay. And then the island has a 1.3 kilometer airstrip ginagamit ng civilian at military. And it has regulated a civilian population of almost 350, most of whom were fishermen. So, again, I emphasize na ang Kalayaan Group of Islands, Spratlys, cannot be considered as regime of island kasi merong human habitation. At kung nakapanganak successfully yung asawa ng tatlong mangingisda dyan, abay 353 na sila ngayon. Di ba? Oh, palagi ko naman, walang COVID dyan kasi hindi sila tumatanggap ng turista. Now, bakit pa napunta sa atin ang Kalayaan Island? In 1947, before you and I were born, there was a Filipino, sa ibang record, siya ay lawyer, sa iba naman siya ay tawag dyan, admiral daw, no? Yan, Thomas Cloma. An adventurer, basta alam ko, mayaman siya at mayroon siyang sariling barko. So he ventured into the South China Sea and he discovered several uninhabited and occupied islands and islets. At ito, umalis muna siya at bumalik siya May 11, 1956. So together with 40 men, si Admiral Thomas Cloma, kasama yung kanyang kapatid na si Pilimon, hindi para mamingwit sa karagatan, kundi para balikan yung mga isla at tinawag nila itong Freedomland. That's why we got the name Kalayaan. Okay. So 4 days later, May 15, 1956, itong si Cloma issued and posted copies of notice to the whole world. So lahat na nakita niyang isla, nilagyan niya ng tarpaulin or billboard siguro, no? Na notice to the whole world that we have an unwavering claim over this territory because this is part of Freedomland. Okay? Taga-Bohol yan si Thomas Cloma, mga taga-Bohol yan, kababayan niya. Now, on May 31, 1956, he declared the establishment of Free Territory of Freedomland. And then 10 days after, nagpadala siya ng kanyang representation to the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Sino ba ang presidente noong 1947? Si Manuel Rojas, informing the Foreign Affairs Secretary na meron siyang mga kiniklaim na territory na ang pangalan ay Freedomland. Ayan. And then, July 6, 1956, he declared to the whole world na nakapag-establish siya ng Free Territory of Freedomland. In other words, establishing a country at yung kanyang capital ay nandyan sa malaking isla na kung tawagin ay Flat Island or Patag Island. Ito nakikita ninyo sa inyong screen. At yung rebultong yan, ay rebulto yata ito ni Thomas Cloma, and the same bust could be found at the gate or near the gate of a school in Quezon City and Manila, yung Philippine Maritime Institute. Kasi si Thomas Cloma rin ang founder ng eskwelahan na yan, PMI. Okay? Hilig talaga siya maglakbay sa dagat. So yan ngayon ng malaking isla, ginawa niyang kanyang capital. Now, his declaration, however, was met with violent and unfriendly reaction from several neighboring countries, particularly Taiwan. Kasi isa pala dun sa isla na nilagyan niya ng notice ay kiniklaim ng Taiwan. Ang layo ng Taiwan yan, diba? Pero kiniklaim niya yan ever since. So ito aba. Okay? Kaya ang ginawa nung Taiwanese Navy, pumunta dyan at ginarison yung isla. So wala naman sundalo si Mang Tomas, edi atras siya. Pinabayaan niya na yung ito aba. Kaya hanggang ngayon, nasa Taiwan yung ito aba. And then, 1972, ay nagdeklara ng martial law si Marcos, si Thomas Cloma, for calling himself an admiral, or in fact, hindi naman daw siya part ng military, ipinakulong. Okay? And nung siya naman ay makalaya, di nagpalit siya, pinalitan niya yung Freedomland at tinawag niyang kolonya. At hindi na siya ang titular head, kundi si John Mariveles. Ayan. Okay. In December 1974, Cloma was arrested again and forced to sign a document to convey to the Philippines whatever rights he might have in the territory. At remember, 1 peso lang. So ito yung libingan ni Thomas Cloma diyan sa Manila North Cemetery, yung barko. Yun daw ang kanyang huling hantungan. So piso lang. At nakuha na ito ng Philippine government. Now, Marcos, knowing his international law, issued letter of instruction organizing the Western Command. Kasi alam niyo, futuristic yung mama eh. Alam niya na baka magkaroon dito ng trouble, so we might as well prepare for the future by organizing a Western Command in Palawan to take charge of all the islands na itinurn over ni Tomas Cloma to the Philippine government. Okay. At to further the claim of the Philippines under international o kailangan meron kang effective administration, Marcos exercising his legislative power because during the martial law period, walang kongreso, si Marcos ang gumagawa ng batas by means of a presidential decree, di ba? So he issued Presidential Decree 1596 and formally annexed the Kalayaan Island and created a municipality called Kalayaan in the province of Palawan, but under the custody of the Department of National Defense. Anong purpose ng National Defense? Para mabantayan yung mga isla. So kaya may mga naka-station dyan na mga sundalo galing sa Navy and some other forces para bantayan. Ito na ang problema. E di syempre, nag-EDSA revolution ka, nawala si Marcos, so kailangan yung mga sundalo, mayat maya may nagkukudita kay Cory Aquino, hindi ko nababanggitin kung sino yung mga leaders niyan, at isa niyan ay secretary ngayon ng isang departamento, naging senador pa, tago natin sa pangalang Gringo Ho Nasan, di ba? It's on the record na marami siyang kudita labang kay Cory Aquino. So dahil kailangan ng mga sundalo, ni-recall yung mga sundalo na nakabantay doon sa mga isla sa Kalayaan. Okay? So, nawala ng tao, edi nagpuntahan yung iba't ibang bansa at ang nauna, ang China, syempre napakaraming nakuha niya. So kaya ang pagkakaalam ko, if I am correct, ay mga around 35 to 40 islands and islets ang meron tayo dyan. Ngayon, naiwan sa atin, siyam na lamang. Okay? Napakalungkot, di ba? Now, what about the Scarborough Shoal? The Scarborough Shoal forms a triangle-shaped chain of reefs. Bato ito, pero nangingisda dyan yung mga tao galing sa Zambales. Kaya may economic activity. So, 55 kilometers lang yung circumference. Kung tatakbo ka ng magdadrive ka ng 60 kilometers per hour, wala pang isang oras na ikot mo na yung buong island. No? Okay. And that was near Palawig. Palawig is a municipality in Zambales. So, around 220 kilometers ng west ng Palawig, naroroon ang Scarborough Shoal. So, from Scarborough Shoal, east mo yung Palawig, Zambales. Okay. Now, look at China. Ang China, ang pinakamalapit niyang teritoryo, yung Hainan, that's 1,200 kilometers from Scarborough Shoal. Ito may flag na ito, no? Tayo, 220 lang. So, nasa exclusive economic zone natin. Yung 1,200 kilometers na yan ng China, lagpas-lagpas na yan doon sa kanyang exclusive economic zone. So, bakit nakarating siya dito? Kasi daw South China Sea, kanila yan. Okay? At sabi daw ng ating mga senador, malayo na sa Pilipinas, hindi na natin pwedeng ilagay sa ating baseline because we will be violating international law. Kung marinig ng China, malayo na sa inyo, sige, malapit sa amin yan. Amin na yan. Okay. Diba? Ang galing. Now, bakit ba Scarborough Shoal ang tawag? So, the name Scarborough Shoal was taken after the East India Company ship na Scarborough, MV Scarborough. Anong September 12, 1784. Kailan lang yan? Lumubog dahil may bagyo. So, to honor those who perished, ito ay tinawag na Scarborough Shoal. At ang ginawa dyan ng China, sinakop noong 2012. At nanalo na tayo, ayaw pa rin umalis ng China sa Scarborough Shoal. Bakit? Naniniwala ang mga Chinese na sila at ang Pilipinas ay mag-shoalmate. Okay? Kaya ayaw nilang umalis dyan. So ito yung Scarborough Shoal sa kaliwa ng iyong screen. At yung kanan, that is the plan of China to establish that Scarborough Shoal as a military base. That is too dangerous for us. Bagay, at least malayo pa yan, no? Yung nandito sa Cavite, no? Na ibinenta na raw sa mga Chinese kung tama ang pagkakarinig ko. Wala na tayong lusot sa mga Chinese na ito. Now, anong legal basis ng Pilipinas? Siyempre, among the criteria, effective occupation, di ba? Presidential Decree 1596 claimed that Scarborough Shoal and the Spratlys as part of the Philippine territory. So wala namang ibang bansa na nagkiklaim niyan at that time. Bago lang ang China nagkiklaim niyan. And historically speaking, ito yung kauna-unahang mapa na nakadisplay na raw ngayon sa National Museum. Kalahati lang ito, no? Kasi malaki yung mapa na yan. Yan yung tinatawag na Velarde map. Way back 1734, kailan lang naman ito, no? There was a Jesuit priest by the name of Pedro Murillo Velarde. Walang alam kung may mga kamag-anak pa siya ngayon sa Pilipinas, ha? Gumawa siya ng Carta Hydrographica e Chronographica de las Islas Filipinas. So, hydrographic and chronographic map. Kasi may mga drawing siya dyan tungkol sa iba't ibang kultura dito sa Pilipinas at iba't ibang mga tao, plus yung mapa. So, kasama dyan sa mapang yan, makikita ninyo bandang kaliwa, upper left, no? Bago dumating dun sa Manila na nakalagay, may isang maliit na isla na tinawag ni Father Velarde na Baho di Masinloc. Okay? Kasi noon wala pang Palawig. Masinloc was a town in Zambales. Malapit siya dun sa Scarborough Shore, kaya ang tawag Baho di Masinloc. Bakit Baho? Hindi dahil hindi siya mabango, no? Kundi mas mababa siya sa Masinloc. Lower siya. Okay? Kasi mataas alto, di ba? Now, in 1774, that Velarde map was adopted by the Spanish government in the Philippines as the official map of the Philippine Islands. Okay? Mapa ng Pilipinas. At nakalagay dyan yung Scarborough Shoal, pero ang tawag na Panakot Shoal. Bakit Panakot? Siguro para matakot ang mga Chinese na hindi pumunta dyan. Pero hindi naman sila natakot. Okay? Tayo ang natakot. So, since 1734, there was a historical claim and historical basis in our map that we own the Scarborough Shoal. Bakit inaangkin ng mga Chinese? Naisda naman, ang Pilipinas pala ay province of China. No? Okay. So ngayon, ang Chinese claim naman, remember, nagsimula lamang ito noong 1947. Ha? Nung mag-issue sila ng official map. But remember that China that issued that official map claiming the South China Sea was Taiwan, not the People's Republic of China. Bakit? Kasi ang People's Republic of China, 1962 lang yan, o 1963, inadmit sa UN. Remember the history of China, di ba? O, after World War II, ang prior and after World War II, ang namumuno sa China ay si Chiang Kai-shek, the nationalist. Okay? Ang problema, yung mga komunista, led by Mao Zedong, nilusob itong Beijing at natalo itong puwersa ni Chiang Kai-shek, so umatras sila sa Formosa, which is now known as Taiwan. And Taiwan continued the name Republic of China. It was a member of the UN. But nung si President Lyndon Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, went to China at namasyal sa Great Wall of China, pagbalik niya sa Amerika, there was a resolution at the UN making People's Republic of China as the official member of the UN and expelling Republic of China, which is Taiwan, as the Chinese representative in the UN. Oh, yun ang istorya niyan. Kaya ang Taiwan is no longer recognized as a state, despite the fact that it has all the elements of the state under that Montevideo Convention of 1933. So yun ang istorya. So ang nagkiklaim niyan, if ever, ay Taiwan, not the People's Republic of China. No? But since we adhere to the One China policy, there is only one China, and that's People's Republic of China. Okay. So, noong 2012, nagkaroon ng standoff sa Panatag Shoal. China and the Philippines announced that they are separately imposing fishing bans on the Scarborough Shoal. Okay? Sino nanalo? Alam natin, umatras ang mga Pilipino. Bakit tayo umatras? Kasi nga natakot doon sa laki ng mga Chinese vessels. Alam nyo, kahit gaano kalaki ng mga barko ng China, hindi dapat katakutan yan. Lulubog yan eh. Bakit? They are made in China. Okay? Okay. Okay. So yan na ngayon ang 9-dash line. And accordingly, that is now the new Great Wall of China extending from North Korea down to the Philippines and going up to Vietnam, dahil ang Vietnam ay ferocious in its defense of its territories, di ba? Ayan. Now, alam nyo, ito, pag pupunta kayo dun sa Ho Chi Minh City, dating Saigon, sa Vietnam, ha? Yan, ako mismo nagpicture niya noong 2018. Ang nakalagay dyan, no? Meron diyang Vietnamese, meron Chinese, at merong English translation, ha? Yung Paracel, yan, kasi paikot eh, Paracel and Spratly Islands belong to Vietnam. That is in their plaza. So anyone, tourist or whatever, na dadaan, makikita yung kanilang claim over Paracel and Spratly. Ano ba yung Paracel? Balikan natin ito. Yung Paracel Island, yan, yung malapit yan dyan sa Hainan Province. It was formerly occupied by Vietnam. North Vietnam. So after the war, nawala ang North Vietnam, edi isang Vietnam na lang, di ba? South Vietnam pala. Dahil ito yung democratic, yung North ay yung communist. So nawala ang South Vietnam, natira yung Vietnam. So they possess Paracel. Back in 1997, ganyan din ang ginawa ng China. Binubunggo-bunggo yung mga vessel ng Vietnam, and finally, nilusob ang Paracel. Okay? So, walang nakapalag. May mga namatay ng Vietnamese Navy. Bakit? Iyon ang kinakatakutan siguro ng ating Pangulo. Na baka tayo igirahin din ng China. Pero, imagine, remember the difference. Vietnam has no military treaty or defense treaty with any country like the US. In fact, kaaway nga dati ng Amerika ang Vietnam, di ba? Dahil komunista yan. So, ayaw ng mga Amerikano. But in the Philippines, we have that mutual defense treaty. Ang unang panahon, na ngayon ay visiting foreign aggressors. Violent forces of America. Ano pala yan? Tawag yan. Visiting foreign forces agreement. BFA. Na pag binasa ninyo, that's still a mutual defense treaty. Na pagka may trouble tayo, militarily, we can call on the US and the US is obliged under the treaty to help us. Walang ganun ng Vietnam, kaya malakas ang loob ng China. O tayo, nanalo na tayo sa kaso, ayaw pa nating i-enforce, di ba? We wait until after 2022. Depende kung sino pa magiging Pangulo. Okay? So yun. Yan ang problema natin. Okay? Ang problema lang naman natin dyan sa pagkabata daw, pembarya. Pero pagka matanda na at gusto malaking pera, pemberton. Anyway. Okay. So, puntahan natin. So, dahil sa pambubuli na ito ng China sa atin, the Philippines filed a case with the UNCLOS. Okay? The International Tribunal on the Laws of the Sea. Kaya lang, ayaw natin ng adversarial proceeding. So we opted for arbitration, which is provided for under Annex 7 of the UNCLOS. So may nakalagay na Annex 7 doon na pag ayaw mo ng court litigation, you can go for arbitration. O, sana ganito na lang no? Si Leon Guerrero at saka si Jackie Chan. So ang ginawa natin, i-file natin ito sa UNCLOS. We notified China, but China rejected our submission. Okay? Ayaw nila. At notify nila, in-ignore nila tayo. Kaya, ang ginawa natin, nag-file tayo ng 4,000-page memorial. Ito yung ating position paper. Position paper ang tawag, or memorial, sa UNCLOS. Okay? At nung nakaraan, may isang kandidato na nagsabi na mag-Jetski siya at ilalagay niya ang Philippine flag. Narinig ng buong sambayanan yan. Narinig ng buong mundo yan. That's why, nung bagong upong Pangulo si Presidente, may mga reporters, I think from Al Jazeera, in-interview siya. Nagpa-interview naman siya. At ang tanong sa kanya, at pwede niyong ihanapin sa YouTube yan, mag-subscribe na rin kayo doon sa channel natin, ang tinatanong siya, Mr. President, you promised during the election campaign that you'll be riding in a jet ski and you will plant a flag on the disputed island. have you ever done that promise? Sabi ng Pangulo, that's hyperbole. You want me to go there on a jet ski? I don't even have a jet ski. How can I do that? Kayo naman. Nangako na eh. Gusto nyo tumupad pa. Ang bira naman kayo. Masyado kayong demanding. Diba? Okay. So, nag-file tayo. Ang problema, reject talaga ng China dahil yung position daw ng China dito, kanila yan. Ha? Kanila yan. At tayo ang mga nag-encroach on their territory. So, kaya ang ginawa ng UNCLOS, itong si Sun Jianai ang presidente at the time, Japanese, at isa yan sa mga punto ng China na bias daw ang UNCLOS kasi ang Japan ay meron ding territorial dispute with China and the president at the time of UNCLOS was a Japanese, si Sun Jianai. So, ang ginawa ng presidente, itong si Sun Jianai, appointed 5 arbitrators because according to our position, we are opting for arbitration. So, kaya nag-appoint siya ng arbitrators. Anyway, yung arbitration is guaranteed that we can avail of it under Annex 7 to the UNCLOS Convention. So, kaya nag-appoint siya ng arbitrator. Okay? At ito yung mga arbitrators na in-appoint niya coming from the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Okay? Si Judge Thomas Mensah, ang presidente. Dati ring presidente yan ng UNCLOS from Ghana. So, natakot ako dyan kasi baka maging bias laban sa Pilipinas. Why? Kasi kababayan niya yung si Cloti, ibinugbog yun ni Pacman eh. So, pero hindi naman. And then Judge Jean-Pierre Pat from France, Alfred Zuns from the Netherlands, Paulak from Poland, and Wolfram from Germany. So sila yung mga tumayong arbitrators, no? At sila ay appointed by the UNCLOS, the International Tribunal on the Laws of the Sea. So, ang sabi ng China, walang jurisdiction ang arbitration panel because it should be the UNCLOS. Yan naman ang problema natin dyan. Pipirma-pirma ka at hindi mo, ngayon na hindi ka sang-ayon, sasabihin mo walang jurisdiction, pumirma ang China sa UNCLOS. Part ng UNCLOS yung arbitration. O, di ba? Napaka-convenient para sa China na sabing walang jurisdiction. Bakit? Kami na nakaposisyon eh. Oh. So, sabi ng Beijing, the Special Tribunal at The Hague, ito na yung Permanent Court of Arbitration, has no jurisdiction over the issue since UNCLOS does not accord it the mandate to address what are essentially sovereignty-related issue. We. Di ba dun sa UNCLOS nakalagay arbitration? Tama sila na hindi naman binanggit kung sino ang tatayong arbitrator. Okay? But it was the decision of the UNCLOS to appoint the arbitrators from the Permanent Court of Arbitration. The Permanent Court of Arbitration was established as early as 1898. And there were several cases that they were successful in arbitrating. No? Ayan. Now, so para pagbigyan lang ang China, dahil sabi nyo, wala kaming jurisdiction. So nag-hearing ang Permanent Court of Arbitration and it decided on October 29, 2015, that China's strongest argument against the Philippines, yung jurisdiction, has no basis. That the Permanent Court of Arbitration has jurisdiction to hear the case under the UNCLOS Convention in which China was a signatory. Okay? So, napaka-convenient, di ba? Pipirma ka, pero pag apektado ka, ayaw mo na. Now, on July 12, 2016, so sino ang presidenteng nag-file? Si Pinoy. 2016, lumabas ang desisyon. Sino ng presidente? Ay, di si Presidente Duterte na. Lumabas ang desisyon consisting of, napakanipis, 501 pages. Okay? At that time, I was still teaching international law sa College of Law, ay pinapabasa ko sa mga estudyante ko. Kaya lang, masyadong makapal, ano? Okay. So, ito na yung summary. Ano ba ang nilalaman ng desisyon? The Chinese government is claiming that they have jurisdiction over the entire South China Sea because of what they call 9 dash line. Historically speaking daw, lahat ng resources na yan ay pag-aari ng China. Masabi ng arbitration panel, yes, siguro nga may historical right kayo, but your rights were extinguished. Nawala na yan kasi incompatible yan doon sa exclusive economic zone. Remember, itong mga teritoryo na ito, nandiyan sa kanan ng inyong screen, na kiniklaim ng China ay way, way beyond sa 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. Kulang na lang sa kopi ng Palawan kung nakita nyo. Diba? Ganun sila kasakit. Okay? Probably that's the right term. There was no evidence that China had historically exercised exclusive control over the water or their resources kasi common fishing ground ito ng Malaysia, ng Vietnam, ng Taiwan, ng Pilipinas, lalo na kasi malapit na malapit sa atin, ng Brunei, ng Indonesia. Oh. Pumasok na kayo dun sa convention, so limitado na kayo sa 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone. And China has no legal basis to claim historic rights to resources within the areas falling within the 9 dash lines. In other words, China lang ang may gusto ng 9 dash line. Hindi yan recognized internationally. Diba? Okay. Now, issue number 2. So, panalo tayo sa first issue, yung legality of historic rights over the 9 dash line. Number 2, status of features. So, the reefs have been heavily modified by land reclamation. Okay? Ang China, nagtambak dyan. At meron nakapagkwento sa akin, ewan ko, maniniwala kayo, hanapin nyo lang sa Google. Pinayagan ng ating gobyerno and even affirmed by the Supreme Court the right of foreign mining corporations, 100% foreign-owned corporations, to mine, to operate the mining facilities, to mine resources in the Philippines. Di ba't bawal daw yan? Hindi ho, noong 1995 meron tayong Philippine Mining Act allowing 100% foreign-owned corporations to operate in our mining industry. Karamihan yung mga Chinese na nag-ooperate. Okay? Limited lang naman daw kasi sa financial and technical assistance. Okay. So, anong problema niyan? Pag nagmimina ka, ang kinukuha mo lang yung mineral, iniiwanan mo yung lupa. But I was told na pagka Chinese mining company, kinukuha pati yung lupa. So, talagang level yung bundok. Saan lalagay yung lupa? Yan, pinantatambak dyan sa South China Sea. Okay? Diba? So, tinatabunan tayo ng ating sariling lupa. So, certain areas within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines, because those are not overlapped by any possible entitlement of China. So, yun ang sinasabi ko. Bawal ang joint exploration because there is no overlapping of our exclusive economic zone with that of China. Ang layo. Diba? So, kung nag-iisip lang talaga itong mga ito, ay, kami dapat ang may-ari niyan. Oh. Now, letter C. Ito yung third issue. Kasi there were 5 issues, 4 were ruled in favor of the Philippines. Only 1 was not ruled upon. So, at least, 4 pa rin, panalo tayo. So, lawful ba ang aksyon ng mga Chinese? Certain areas are within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. So, paulit-ulit na sinasabi na yung mga areas na sinakop ng China ay nasa loob ng exclusive economic zone. So, the tribunal found that China had violated the Philippine sovereign rights in the exclusive economic zone. Ano ang mga paglabag ng China? Number 1, interfering with Philippine fishing and petroleum exploration. Hindi na makapangisda yung mga mangingisda natin kasi binubuli nila, binobomba nila ng water cannon. Okay? Para silang nasa Mindiola. And then, constructing artificial islands in violation of the UNCLOS and failing to prevent Chinese fishermen from fishing in the zone. So, dapat pagbawalan mo ang mga fishermen mo. Hindi nga, ginagawa nga ng China. I-encourage yung mga fishermen na mangisda dyan. At ang ginagawa daw, kung paniniwalaan natin yung mga fishermen, ang pangingisda nila ay dangerous to the environment. Bakit? Bukod sa dynamite fishing, nagmumuro ami. Ano yung muro ami? Pinapatay nila yung mga coral sa ilalim. Para lumabas yung mga isda, so wala na. Mauubos na ang resources dyan. Diba? O pagka Pilipino ang gumawa niyang kulong, pero pag Chinese, okay lang. O, hindi natin kaya, di ba? Ayaw nating awayan eh. Letter D, harm to marine environment. Look at this picture. That was an actual picture, not mine, but in Google, of Chinese fishermen caught by the Coast Guard of the Philippines. At tingnan nyo ang kanilang mga hinuli. Yung mga gentle giant na pawikan o yung sea turtle. Ang lalaki niyan, pero hindi naman nangangagat. Kinuha nila. Giant clams, yung mga Cloma kung tawagin sa Tagalog. Okay? Mga endangered species. Pag Pilipino ang kumuha niyang kulong hanggang 2 taon. Pero pag Chinese, okay lang. Kaibigan namin kayo. O, di ba? Oh, now, ito na ang sabi nung isang website na dahil sa paninira ng ating environment, ang China ay may utang na sa atin na total 190 billion US dollars. Okay? Dapat singilin na natin yan. At lahat ng nawala sa ating kabuhayan because of the virus originating from China, dapat singilin din natin sila. Di ba? Ayan. Okay. So, Chinese authorities were aware that Chinese fishermen have harvested endangered sea turtles. Sabi ko sa inyo kanina, corals, giant crabs. These are not my wordings. These are the wordings of the decision of the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Okay? Using methods that inflict severe damage on the coral reef environment and had not fulfilled their obligations to stop such activities under international law. So, nasaan na ang adherence to international law ng China? Diba? We don't hate the Chinese. We hate the policies of the Chinese government. Okay. Now, letter E. Ito yung fifth issue na ayaw desisyonan ng arbitration panel. Why? Wala daw siyang jurisdiction to consider the implication of the standoff. Kasi itong nakikita ninyong ayungin shoal ang tawag natin dyan. O sa international o second Cloma shoal, ariyan, may barko. Ito nakikita itong barkong ito nasa baba, nakasadsad dyan malapit sa ayungin shoal. So ipinapaalis yan ng China. Pero ang Pilipinas ayaw umalis kasi atin daw yan eh. So sabi nung arbitration panel, military issue yan. So wala kaming pakialam dyan. Okay. So at least nanalo tayo sa 4. Ito yung barko na naggogwardya doon sa ayungin shoal. At kita nyo, dyan nakatira yung ating Philippine Navy. Ang ganda ng barko, di ba? Oh, may advantage yan. Kasi itong mga missiles na ito ng China, yung mga torpedo nila, ay computer guided yan, nakaprogram. So pag tinira nila ito ng mga missiles nila, mag-iisip yung kanilang missiles, ano ba ito? Barko ba ito o ano? So iiwasan na lang yan, baka matetano sila. Pambihira. That's BRP Sierra Madre, Google nyo. Ha? BRP Sierra Madre. At ito patuloy ang pangaharas ng China at ng Chinese Coast Guard sa ating mga mangingisda dyan sa West Philippine Sea. Diba? Ayan, as of 2019 yan, March 29, no? Naharas yung mga mangingisda natin. At yan, binangga yung barko, iniwanan. Ha? Dahil ang sabi nila, nagkaroon daw ng collision. Pero sabi naman, stationary daw sila. So if there are 2 vessels that collided, and one is stationary, and one is moving, that's not collision. Ang tawag dyan, allision. Allision pala, di ba? Sa maritime commerce. So kaya pala iniwanan. Iniwanan sila ng mga Chinese. Bakit? Allision. Ayun, malis yun. Okay. Now, so, at yan na ang matapos i-meet yung mga fishermen na ito, nagbago ang kanilang isip. Hindi naman daw Chinese na ang bumangga. Okay. At isa sa mga judges, itong si Stanislaw Polak from Poland, ay nagpunta dito sa atin November 26, 2018, nagtandak ng seminar para ipaliwanag yung kanilang ruling at nangihinayang siya kasi nga, nanalo kayo, ba't ayaw nyong i-enforce yung panalo nyo? Eh sabi ng iba, kasi takot po kami, baka girahin kami ng China. China cannot do that. Hindi tayo pwedeng lusubin. O kung lulusubin tayo, takot ba tayo? O, kasi may Chinese. Remember yung mga bala nila made in China. Okay. So, ano naman ang sinasabi ni Justice Antonio Carpio na isa sa mga pinakamasigasig na otoridad kasi kasama siya doon sa ating delegation at panel na nag-file ng kaso niyan. Okay? Sabi niya, China's territorial claims in the South China Sea in defiance of a 2016 international arbitration ruling is the gravest external threat since World War II to the Philippines. Tama. Ayan, ang sabi nung acting head of the Supreme Court kasi at that time siya yung OIC ng Supreme Court. Ano? Yan. Kasi wala pa si Justice Sereno. Ang pinaka malupit dyan na Chief Justice ay si Justice Puno. Siya ang tunay na Chief Justice. Bakit? Punong Mahistrado. Eh sino yung pinaka-dangerous? Ang dangerous dyan ay si Chief Justice Panganiban. Okay? panganiban. Bakit si Chief Justice Sereno ang inappoint ni Pinoy? Hindi naman siya ang most senior. Kasi daw, ayaw ni Pinoy ng wangwang. Kaya Sereno yung kanyang Chief Justice. Ayan, nakuwaran tutuloy. Sabi naman ni Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, kahit siya ay babae, huwag niyang tawaging ombudswoman. Please, huwag niyong gayahin yung mga tumatawag na ombudswoman. Ombudsman yan kasi ang ombudsman ay isang borrowed word from Sweden, from Scandinavia. Na ang ibig sabihin ay public defender. Hindi naman natin pwedeng tawaging public defender dahil baka maging public attorney's office, di ba? Okay, ang tawag natin ombudsman. Okay, alam niyo naman ang function ng ombudsman under Article 11 and under Republic Act 6770. I need not tell you that. Okay? Sabi ni Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, a nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. May pag-atake itong si Chief Justice Morales, si Chief Justice, si Ombudsman Morales, dating Justice of the Supreme Court yan. Sabi niya, quoting from Cicero. So, an enemy at the gate is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But a traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely. His sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. Pinapatamaan si Aling Conchita, ano? Okay. At dinimanda, kung alam niyo, dinimanda ng nitong si Justice Morales at saka ni Secretary Del Rosario ang China sa International Criminal Court, no? For war crimes at crimes against hindi war crimes. Crimes against humanity. Bakit? Dinideprive nila ang mga mangingisdang Pilipino ng kabuhayan. So sa ICC, pwede ba yan? Well, let's see. Kasi hindi na miyembro ng Pilipinas, hindi na miyembro ng International Criminal Court ang Pilipinas. So let us see kung anong mangyayari dyan. May kaso pa sa Supreme Court Mamaya, di-discuss ko sa inyo, ano? O kung hindi ngayon, bukas, or even Sunday. Hanggang Sunday pa naman yata tayo dito, no? Ayan. Okay. Now, sabi naman ni James Holmes, foreignpolicy.com, yan ang kanyang website, pwede niyong puntahan. Paano ba natin ipapatupad yung panalo natin? Kasi maraming bansa ang humanga sa atin. Di ba? That we stood against a bully. We stood against an invader by filing a case in court. Ang Vietnam, hindi siya nag-file ng kaso. Inagawa na siya ng Paracel Islands, hindi siya nag-file. Pero tayo, nag-file tayo. Kasi ayaw natin ang madugong sagupaan. Di ba? Pero paano natin i-enforce? Panalo na tayo Let us not sit on our victory. Baka ma-stop tayo by laches yan. But while the UNCLOS Tribunal ruled China's overreach unlawful, the court has no enforcement arm. Yan ang problema. Walang sheriff ang UNCLOS, lalo na yung tribunal, yung arbitration. Now, China refused to take part in the legal proceedings, rejected the ruling, and for good measure, flew a nuclear-capable bomber over Scarborough shoal afterward, which the Chinese Coast Guard vessel wrested from the Philippines Navy 6 years ago. So, inagaw sa atin yan. Okay? Now, Manila must show people what China is doing. So, pakita natin. Kaso ang problema, paano natin papakita? Kaibigan natin ng China. At meron pang mga sinasabi ng Philippine Province of China, di ba? In the case of fellow Asian powers, remind them that if they do not do anything, you will be the next target of China grabbing of your territory. Sabi ng Indonesia, mukha nyo, kami hindi makalapit sa amin ng China Bakit? Sinusunog namin ang barko nila Sige, i-google nyo yan, i-YouTube nyo, may mga barko ang China na sinunog ng Indonesian Navy. Okay? So Manila must likewise aim its opinion-shaping efforts at the current prospective partners, di ba? Has no military option of its own. Remember, iisa, may dumating na ba yung isa? Isa lang Shillong. Yun. Pakalaki niyan. Ang itinatapat natin, DRP Gregorio del Pilar. The Philippine Navy is centered on the 3 elderly U.S. Coast Guard na pininturahan at renamed frigates. Ito yung mga niretiro na ng U.S. Coast Guard and under the BFA, binigay sa atin, bininta sa atin at ginawa natin kunyaring brand new, di ba? So China's Navy would make short of them in battle. So matatalo tayo. Tingnan nyo, ayan ang Chinese, yung Shilang Plan 83. Ay sa atin, Gregorio del Pilar. Nako, parang, ano yan, di ba? David and Goliath. But don't worry, itong sa atin, made in the USA. Yung Shilang, made in China. Di lulubog yan. Di ba? At saka itong BRP Gregorio del Pilar natin, that's 50 years old. Ito, mga 5-10 years old lang yan, itong Shilang. Edi, wala nang tatalo sa BRP Gregorio del Pilar in terms of experience. 50 years old na yan. Okay, marami ng karanasan yan. Liwanag. Okay. And then, ang UN Security Council daw po pwedeng umaksyon. Ang problema lang natin, China is a permanent member of the Security Council. So doon tayo nalamangan. Now, ASEAN could act. But the problem is, hindi naman united ang ASEAN. Kasi yung Cambodia, nako pro-China. Although, Vietnam, kalaban na ngayon ang China, di ba? It's not, ASEAN is not a military treaty. It's not a military organization. Ano yan? Economic alliance lang yan. Okay? Then, a mutual defense treaty. Ito na. Pasok na. Kahit si James Home, sabi niya, may mutual defense treaty kayo sa Amerika. Ba't di nyo gamitin? Diba? Washington has inched closer and closer to declaring that the treaty applies to offshore island and atolls. Ang problema natin, nasa atin. Kasi yung ating administrasyon, sorry binoto ko pa rin naman itong si Presidente Duterte noong nakarang eleksyon. Pero, we have to realize the fact na panalo tayo at ang treaty natin ay sa Amerika at hindi China. So bakit tayo dikit na dikit sa China? Anong dahilan? Sabi nga ni Pink, just give me a reason. Okay? There must be a reason. O kung ayaw nyo kay Pink, si Lady Gaga, ano yun? A million reasons. But just one good one to stay. Ano yung good reason na yun? Okay. So sabi naman ni Justice Antonio Carpio, paano ba natin i-impose ang ating victory? Paano natin ito? Wala tayo rito of execution Sana tanggap natin ang desisyon, binigyan natin ng notice yung embassy ng China dito, ito na yung desisyon, panalo kami, lumayas na kayo sa Scarborough shoal. Hindi natin ginawa hanggang ngayon 2016 yan, 4 years ago na, di ba? So Philippines and Vietnam daw can enter into a sea boundary agreement at ginagawa naman na natin yan ng Vietnam, di ba? A similar sea boundary agreement can be entered into between the Philippines and Malaysia. Kasi remember, itong si Prime Minister ng Malaysia, ano pangalan? Mahathir Mohamad ba yan? Nagpunta dito sa Pilipinas, winarningan tayo, huwag kayong mangutang sa China kasi yan ay debt trap. Take a look at what happened to Nepal, what happened to Djibouti, and some other countries in the world. Di ba? Sa pinautang ng China, nung hindi na sila makabayad, kinukuha ng teritoryo nila. Pambira, pantay nakikinig. Then, the Philippines can also file with the UN a commission on limits of the continental shelf. Na-extend natin yung ating coast of Luzon facing South China Sea, which we have done kaya lang sa Pacific Ocean kasi kiniklaim natin yung Benham Rice na yung pala pinuntahan na rin ng mga Chinese. So, di ba? Natutulog tayo, nandun na pala yung mga Chinese. Nag-survey lang naman daw sila. Ba't nyo surveyin na sa aming teritoryo yan? Ang bihira. Baka naman may nakakaalam na nandun sila at di natin alam. Di ba?